Holocaust survivors have led commemorations at the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. World leaders gathered at the gates of the former extermination camp in Poland to listen to the recounts of survivors. The service, attended by 54 international delegations, including King Charles, Queen Mary of Denmark and the Ukrainian president. Politicians have been exempt from speaking at the ceremony. Instead, the service focused on survivors.
15 months ago, not 80 years ago, we saw Jewish children slaughtered, once again, for one reason: because they were born Jewish. In a very fundamental way, what happened in Israel on October 7th and what happened here at Auschwitz have one common thread: the age-old hatred of Jews.
Let's go live to Liberal MP, former Speaker of the House of Reps, Andrew Wallace. Andrew, a sombre time, an important time to remember what happened many years ago, but there are very contemporary and very real current concerns in this country and around the world in the face of anti-Semitism right now, Andrew.
Well, Kieran, I just simply wouldn't have believed you if you had told me what we would be encountering in this country even 12 or 18 months ago, before October 7. We have seen anti-Semitism, the likes of which your generation and mine have never encountered before, and it really does. It brings back memories for those who encountered the Holocaust. After the Holocaust, we said never again. The world said never again. But yet, 80 years later, here we are. And it's something that, I just shake my head. When I was in year 12, I read the book Schindler's List, as many of my generation would have. You may have as well. And it fundamentally changed my way of thinking, particularly in relation to the Jewish community. And I encourage anybody who's never read the book to read the book, because it is a very, very powerful book, and it in fact changed my life. What we are seeing on the streets of not just our capital cities, but in regions as well, is an absolute disgrace. The rise of anti-Semitism in this country since October 7 is unforgivable. And it's up to all Australians to call it out as we see it, when we see it.
Yeah. And also the law enforcement, so important in this as well. We know there is a task force that's established. Intelligence agencies are working overtime on it as well. But did you welcome what you saw out of the South Australian response, the fact that arrests were made so swiftly after that appalling rally by a group of extremists, Nazis,
neo-Nazis,
Nazi sympathisers?
Yeah, neo-Nazis. They're self-proclaimed neo-Nazis. Look, Kieran, I have very strong views about the lack of political leadership and leadership within our law enforcement agencies in relation to what's happened since October 7. It's only been in the last month or two where, the Prime Minister is actually trying to demonstrate some form of leadership on this. But I don't have any qualms with the rank and file members of our police forces around the country. What I do have a concern with is that the leadership of our state, territory and national law enforcement agencies has been utterly left wanting. The leadership of these police enforcement agencies should have been clamping down on this behaviour since October 9, since we saw those appalling scenes on the steps of the Sydney Opera House. And it's because of the lack of political leadership and the lack of leadership from our law enforcement agencies that this anti-Semitism that has taken root in this country has been able to fester. And we are where we are now, where people are flagrantly flouting the law.
Your criticism, this is I introduced you as a former speaker, but you're also the deputy chair of a powerful parliamentary committee, the Committee on Intelligence and Security. So you're privy to a lot of information many of us aren't. So your criticism carries quite a bit of weight, and I want to know, how bad is it right now? Because obviously we see the reports of the attacks, and that's appalling what we've seen thus far. But how worried are you? How deep is this problem right now?
Well, Kieran, you can probably tell from my tone that I am very worried. I'm very worried that we're seeing the attacks in Maroubra. We're seeing attacks on childcare centres, firebombing of childcare centres. We're seeing attacks of places of worship. The Jewish community are very fearful for themselves, for their children. I have had Jewish people say to me they are seriously considering leaving Australia and going and living in Israel in what has been a war zone, because they say that they would feel safer in Israel than what they would feel on the streets of Australia. That just beggars belief. I don't necessarily agree with that standpoint or that viewpoint, but it goes to the depth of fear that Jewish Australians are feeling right now. And it is absolutely as a result of the lack of political leadership shown by Anthony Albanese. What Penny Wong has done in the United Nations has also stoked these deep-seated animosities towards the Jewish community in Australia. And we have to call that out. We cannot let Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese get away with what they have done or what they have failed to do over the last...
Mark Dreyfus says you're politicising it.
Well, it's very good. Look, I'm not going to attack Mark Dreyfus. I think Mark Dreyfus, it was a good thing for Mark to be there because of his personal connection at the commemoration of Auschwitz. But what I will say about Mark's comment in relation to that is that it's all very well and good to now come out and say we're politicising something. The reality is we are, as the opposition, we are calling the government's failure and we're putting it into light. That's our job. We have to demonstrate that this government is failing not just the Jewish community, but the entire Australian community by their lack of action. Okay. It's all very well and good to talk about politicisation, but the reality is, what should we be doing? Going silent? Well, I'm sorry, we're just not going to do that. We are not prepared as an opposition. We are not prepared to just go silent and allow this conduct to continue. The world said never again in 1945, and this is our responsibility to ensure that it doesn't.
Andrew Wallace, I appreciate your time as always. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Kieran.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.